to do something. This is something they did on their own accord. Unfortunately, the brainwashing of society has forced people into a disposition where they want to be rewarded for what they do, and that means they want monetary compensation. No one will do anything in society without reward, and that includes solving social problems. If you can't make money off of solving a social problem in the system, it won't be done.
Because you can't get anywhere if you just copy what somebody told you. You have to be challenging things all the time, challenging everything, you know, and thinking new thoughts and so on. And there you got a real contradiction. It's hard to train people to be creative and challenging and so on, and yet to ensure that somewhere else in their lives they're conformist and obedient and never think.
Creativity, I think of as the process of having original ideas, you know, original ideas that have value. And there are a lot of misconceptions about it. One of them is that it's about special people, you know, that it's a rare thing. The truth is that everybody has enormous creative capacities. It's as natural as learning to speak, to have original ideas. The problem is it gets weaned out of us, it gets suppressed. The second misconception, it's about special things, you know, it's about the arts, for example. Well, it is about the arts. I've worked in the arts most of my life. I'm a huge admirer of the creative achievements of artists, and it's a great tragedy that the arts aren't given a better place in schools. But this isn't just about the arts. You know, you can be creative in science, in math, in everything. So it's a whole system argument. And the third thing is that people think that there's nothing much you can do about this. You know, you're creative or you're not. And to me, that would be like people saying you're either literate or you're not. You know, you can read or write or you can't. Right. When people say they can't read and write, you know, you don't believe them to be saying I'm incapable. What you understand them to be saying is I never was taught how to do that. I don't know what's involved. And I think it's the same thing with creativity.
The human body is a community of approximately 50 trillion cells. Everything the body does, the cell does as well. Cells have respiratory and excretory systems. They feed, feel, think, and communicate with other cells. Trillions of cells make up a single organism called the human body, and billions of human bodies help make up the organism we call Earth. The Earth has more similarities with the human anatomy than you may think.
The first stage of humanity's heroic journey began with our initial awakening, roughly 35,000 years ago. Before then, humans were largely unconscious of themselves and were immersed within nature. But about 35,000 years ago, there was a rapid increase in cave art, in figurines, in necklaces, burials, evidence of trading networks, and much more. With the evolutionary edge of an awakening consciousness, nomadic bands were able to adapt flexibly to changing conditions, and we spread rapidly throughout the world. Roughly 10,000 years ago, we took another major step in our journey of separation from nature by learning to stand back and to observe nature's changing seasons. With that understanding, we learned to farm plants and to produce extra food. In turn, with a food surplus came small villages and eventually cities and empires. Then, approximately 300 years ago, humanity made another dramatic advance in our empowerment and in our separation from nature. Combining the power of the intellect with the penetrating power of consciousness, we looked into the realm of atoms and created the scientific and industrial revolution. With these revolutions, we took a further step away from nature and began to view the universe as essentially dead or non-living at the foundations. Looking back over the past 35,000 years, it is clear that our path of growing self-consciousness combined with separation from nature has been a time of tremendous discovery and creativity, but it has also placed our collective future in grave peril. And this brings us to the second major stage on the hero's journey. A time when humanity confronts a seemingly impossible challenge, the perfect storm of a world systems crisis. We are wounding the Earth with climate change, resource depletion, species extinction, pollution, and more. We are being pushed to change, or else we will cause lasting damage to the Earth. We have already begun to enter this second stage of initiation. We can now see the possibility of either pulling together in cooperation or pulling apart in conflict. Looking ahead, if the human family combines the power of love with the power of mass communications, along with the ability of people to choose more sustainable ways of living, then it is clear we have the ability to create a promising future. For example, with the combined power of television and the internet, we can, for the first time, observe ourselves and communicate with ourselves as an entire species. The world is becoming transparent to itself, able to know itself. In consciously seeing ourselves as a species, we are taken beyond the narrow confines of the past and can begin the third stage of our journey toward a more sustainable, compassionate, and creative future.
The false assumption of separation through the rejection of the symbiotic relationship of life. Apart from the understanding that all natural systems are emergent, where all notions of reality will be constantly developed, altered, and even eradicated, we must also understand that all systems are, in fact, invented fragments, merely for the sake of conversation. For there is no such thing as independence in nature. The whole of nature is a unified system of interdependent variables, each a cause and a reaction, existing only as a concentrated whole.
You don't see the plug connected to the environment, so it looks like we're free, wandering around. Take the oxygen away, we all die immediately. Take plant life away, we die. And without the sun, all the plants die. So we are connected.
We really must take into account the totality. This isn't just a human experience on this planet. This is a total experience. And we know we can't survive without plants and animals. We know we can't survive without the four elements, And so when are we going to really start taking that into account? That's what it is to be successful. Success depends on how well we relate to everything around us. I'm very aware of the fact that my grandson cannot possibly hope to inherit a sustainable, peaceful, stable, socially just world unless every child today growing up in Ethiopia, in Indonesia, in Bolivia, in Palestine, in Israel also has that same expectation. You got to take care of the whole community or you're going to have serious problems. And now we have to see that the whole world is the community and we must all take care of each other that way. And it's not just a community of human beings. It's a community of plants and animals and elements. And we really need to understand that. That's what's going to bring us joy, too, and pleasure. That's what's missing in our lives right now. We can call it spirituality, but the fact of the matter is joy comes from that bliss of connectedness. That's our God spirit. That's that side of ourselves that really feels it. And you can feel it deep inside you. It's this amazing, wonderful feeling. And you know it when you get it. You don't get it from money. You get it from connection.
Whatever are they talking about? Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean absolutely flat. And that we live, appropriately enough, in a flatland. A land designed and named by Edwin Abbott, a Shakespearean scholar who lived in Victorian England. Everybody in flatland is, of course, exceptionally flat. We have squares, circles, triangles, and we all scurry about, and we can go into our houses and do our flat business. Now, we have width and length, but no height at all. Now, these little cutouts have some little height, but let's ignore that. Let's imagine that these are absolutely flat. That being the case, we know, us flatlanders, about left-right, and we know about forward-back, but we have never heard of up-down.